Hey, I'm Tobias. Welcome. I'm going to be sharing with you my top favorite books of all time. This is my list that I've gathered over years of reading. Up until this point, this is my top 10. So let's dive in. Number 10, we have The Overstory by Richard Powers. If you guys want a much richer appreciation for nature, and to change your whole perspective, oh man, this book will do it for you. You know, it's about a cast of characters that are all influenced by nature, specifically trees, and how nature really just brings them together in a very compelling, provocative way. The book has amazing, beautiful prose. Richard Powers, he really delivers on this one. So, The Overstory, check this one out. Moving on, next book, The Sympathizer by Viet Thanh Nguyen. This is about a communist spy who's embedded in the American side at the end of the Vietnamese War. He eventually goes to America and into LA. So it's very fascinating once he goes to LA because the culture clash and just what life is like there, and how for him, he's still a spy and he's still communicating with the other side. So he's really, the war really hasn't ended for him. This book is, it's a great look at like just the conflict of trying to hold your identity while living two lives. So the complex nature of the writing is very good. I thought he has some amazing prose. He's a great writer. Yeah, check out this book. Definitely look into The Sympathizer. Yeah. Okay, next book. We have The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde by Junot Diaz. Junot Diaz, he tells a story about a nerdy Dominican kid who's wants to be a writer. He's interested in love, and then he's also dealing with this concept, which I find so fascinating, called otherness, that Junot Diaz talks about, which is really just about being an outcast. Oscar Wilde, he just doesn't feel like he fits in. He wants to do something that most people don't. He doesn't feel like he's Dominican enough, so he doesn't feel like he fits into his culture. The book dives into a lot about the Dominican history, so that's very fascinating and educational. So it's a great look at that. Yeah, check out this book. I really loved it. It was really raw, real writing that I could really relate to. And Junot Diaz is a fascinating guy. I've listened to several of his podcasts, and they're so good. So I'd recommend checking him out as well. Next book. John Steinbeck, East of Eden. If you guys want to just understand a master of dialogue and read a book that really just delivers on how the characters communicate and how the stories tell through that perspective, this is a phenomenal book. The characters are so great in this book. It's really about a book that's about two brothers and then another generation of two brothers, and how that's a reflection of the Cain and Abel story, and how their life choices are really a reflection of their perspective of how they got loved by their father or their parents. Yeah, I thought this was John Steinbeck at his finest. Check out East of Eden. One of my favorite authors, Chuck Palahniuk. Whew. Most people know him for Fight Club, but Choke I thought was just amazing. This is twisted and perverted and messed up in all the best ways. So good. so funny and compelling. His writing is just so different than anybody. He's got, just like a lot of his books, there's some social critique in here. If you want to understand Choke, you're going to have to read the book to understand that. But the character's dealing with addiction, and his mom is sick, and his mom's at a care facility, and all those characters, oh, they're so quirky and weird and funny, and just like Chuck always does, he throws a big twist in at the end. So read Choke. I really enjoyed and thought this was a great book. Okay, one of my favorite writer, James Frey, Bright Shiny Morning. I think this is my favorite book of his. Not my favorite book is his, but when it comes to LA, he delivers, and he just talks about characters from homeless people to movie stars, to normal people, and the characters just, they go in ways that you would never expect. And LA is almost a character in itself. But James, just like Chuck, he writes in such a different way. The book flows. This is probably the book that when you hear the book, I couldn't put the book down. This was definitely that book for me. Yeah, so check out Bright Shiny Morning. I think it's a phenomenal read about just a bunch of different characters in LA, and some great history about LA and critique on it as well. So, all right, next book, 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. This book is a multi-generational book about a family that's really trying to get out of its own historical patterns, trying to like break the generational, repetitiveness. It's based in a fictional town that's kind of a reflection of Colombia, South America. There's the very complex, hard to read writing sometimes, but very rewarding, well, in my opinion. And I thought there was some dark comedy that really worked, and at the same time some like drama, and the story was great. So check out 100 Years of Solitude. This one will blow your socks off. Okay, Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. This is one of the best stories, one of the best journeys and adventures I've ever gone on with as far as a reading adventure. It's a chunky, long book, one of the first long books that I'd ever read that was worth every page. It's about a bunch of cowboys that head up north herding cows. They encounter Indians, they encounter other people. All the characters in there are just so well written and so well done. This is just the best journey and the best. It's so enjoyable and so good in so many ways. So if you want a Western that is just so enjoyable to read, I would embark on this Lonesome Dove journey. Okay. One that I just read recently, Solenoid. Probably the most mind-bending, twisting, weird books that I've ever read, but at the same time it's so deep, and it goes and it dives so deep into the inner psyche. And it's I dog-eared and highlighted so much of this book because it was so profound. It's about a Romanian school teacher who's trying to deal with his own childhood trauma. When he's a kid, he's living in Romania in the 60s. The medical technology is not very good at all. So he gets sick a lot and he has to just deal with some of the craziest medical stuff ever. He ends up getting TB and he goes to a TB preventorium, is what it's called. And his time there is just, it's so harsh, but also so revealing for his own life. Yeah. Uh, there's also, a very interesting story about love in here that really, really works. Yeah, but if you just want something that, you got to be really ready to dive in to some very intellectual, complex, uh, writing. But it has some of the most beautiful, best prose I've ever read. Yeah, it's a reason why it's top 2 for me. Number 1, my favorite book by my favorite author, James Frey, The Final Testament of the Holy Bible. This is the second coming of the Messiah in modern day New York. It's a look at what the Messiah would look like and what he would offer and what real healing and love would look like from a much, from a real raw perspective. His family is very religious, so the way that he goes about healing is, it's very challenging and hard. And the cast of people in here is great. The storytelling is amazing. It flows so well. There's great prose. Just such an amazing, beautiful book. Yeah, check out James Frey. This is his best work in my opinion. Yeah. All right, it's my top 10. Go ahead and comment below what you thought about my top 10 and what your top 10 is. I love reading books, so I want to hear more about, some great recommendations from you and what you thought about my whole list. All right, peace.